Welcome. Um, Good evening, all the way from Pretoria, South Africa, chilly Pretoria. We are sort of entering into winter, so for the rest of my North American and European friends, I hope you're enjoying your summer, because we certainly seeing the absence of it. Okay, thank you very much for joining. I hope this is going to be a great learning experience for all of us. So let me introduce the team for tonight. For you that haven't met me before, I'm Francois Coetzee. I am an innovator and an entrepreneur who's been working on some of the big questions of life as it applies to me over the last 3 decades. I'm also a coach and a trainer, and I specialize in working with business leadership to develop human and business potential. We're going to be joined a little bit later by my colleague and friend, Sjoerd de Waal, all the way from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And he's going to join us for the question and answer part of the session. Sjoerd is a whole brain leader who's a wonderful coach and trainer, and he specializes in working with leaders all across the organization in developing their whole brain leadership. Now, we've designed a 4-part webinar series, of which this is the first session. And this session is going to be about finding purpose. And in about 2 weeks from now, we will follow this up by another session on the shape of journeys through life. And for that session, we're going to talk specifically about the metaphor of the hero's journey. And the third session, we'll talk about the tools and the resources of the hero and the heroine in their journey. And then we will conclude with a last session on how to use all of this work for self-coaching and, of course, for coaching. Okay. Now, for information about these sessions and the dates and the times, I'm going to invite you to please go to our calendar page on the website www.breakthethreshold.com. I've put it on the screen for you, so you can click through to that at some point and just investigate the dates for the rest of our sessions. Now, if you have any questions or discussion points, please find your chat box on your screen and type your questions in there. And Sjoerd will pick as many of the interesting questions as we have time for to discuss at the end. He's also said to me if there's a quick question that comes through that he'll can immediately answer, he will just respond to it as the questions come in. Okay. Now, today we're going to talk about something that can either be seen as a very heavy topic or a very empowering one. And I think just to get us all in the right mood, what I would like to do is just to do a little exercise to bring us all fully into the present moment. A little bit later, I'm going to be talking about the importance of the here and now and being present. And it's really important when we are focusing on purpose to engage in that state. Now, the technique that I'm going to use tonight, some of you might know it. It's a technique that I've learned from 2 of my teachers and mentors, Stephen Gilligan and Robert Dilts. And it's actually called the coach state. Now, coach is an acronym, and it represents the following. The C of coach represent centered. Now, centered is when you are totally present in your body. The O is for open, and that's about being open to whatever may arise and learn from it and see how it pushes you forward. The A is for aware, and that is about really engaging with your senses so that you can process all of the information that is coming at you. Then the second C is for connected, and there we're talking about the connection not only between us, but also the connection that you have, with all of the resources in you and connected to you via everyone else. Sorry, I'm just admitting a few latecomers here. Okay. And then the H is for holding the space. Being able to hold that space within which you allow yourself to grow. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to facilitate you into the coach state. So just where you are sitting right at the moment, just relax your whole body. And sort of start relaxing it from the top of your head. Let that relaxation spread down your neck, into your shoulders, into your arms. Let that relaxation seep in through your middle, into your legs and your thighs. All the way down to your feet. And as you are so relaxed, just become aware of your breath. Deep in and out. And another one, deep in and out. And just keep that breathing pattern, deep in and out. And while you're breathing like that, just shift your focus to the area around your heart. And just breathe as if you could breathe into your heart. Deep in and out. Deep in and out. And now feel the breath coming in through your heart and let it go down your spine. And just breathe down all the way along your spine, right into your center. For most people, the center is round about their belly. So breathe in deeply into your center, into your belly, and out. And practice breathing this way a few times, just to ease into this state. And while you're breathing like that, just activate a positive feeling where you feel a deep connection to yourself. This can be a genuine feeling of appreciation or the feeling of care for someone close to you, or a favorite place, or even a great experience in your life. And as you're thinking of this, just notice an image or a feeling that comes to mind. And just notice where that image or feeling resides in your body. And breathe that image or feeling into your head. Breathe it into your heart. Breathe it into your center and into all of your being. And while you're breathing, just become aware of the space around you and breathe your connection into the space and extend that connection to everyone and the whole world around you. Feel their presence around you and welcome it in your being. And say the following words to yourself. I am centered. I am open to whatever may arise. I am aware, alert, and clear. I am connected to myself, to you, and all of the resources within and around us. I am ready to hold on to whatever may emerge within myself and between us from the best of myself. And when you're ready, just bring your attention to the here and now. Welcome. So, what's your life purpose? Have you ever felt that life should be more than just living? Do you ever hear a little voice in the back of your mind that makes you feel that you should be pursuing something bigger, something better? Do you sometimes wonder what your life purpose is? Many of us struggle with the concern that how we are doing our lives is a bit out of sync with living our life's purpose. There comes a stage in life when we start thinking that there's more to life than just existing day by day from paycheck to paycheck. And over time, for the privileged few of us, that voice becomes louder and louder. And the only way to silence that voice is to ignore it either into silence or to embrace it and step into a journey of pursuing purpose. Many of us want to find our purpose in life. We want to know that what we are doing ultimately matters. We want to leave our mark on the world. But the ultimate question is, how do we do this? Because that process is not so simple. Okay. And this sort of makes me think of a story about a monk that was mending clothes. When another monk nearby asked, "What are you doing?" "Mending," said the first monk. "How's it going?" asked the second monk. "One stitch follows another," said the first. Is that not very much like life goes for us? Just experiencing things as they happen after each other. And that leads me to another story of a frustrated young man who went to see a wise man in his village. And he said to this wise man, "I don't know what to do with my life. How do I find my purpose?" And the old man said to him, "Follow me." And off they went on a walking together to a river. And around this river, they found dozens of prospectors panning for gold. And the old man said, "There are 3 types of prospectors here." "What do you mean?" the young man asked. "There are those who strike gold straight away. Excited, they take their plunder, cash it in, and they live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Then there are those who pan for years. They know that there's gold here, and they have seen others strike it rich, so they persist until they too find the gold that they've been looking for." "What about the third type?" asked the young man. "They are the individuals who get frustrated, that they haven't found anything, that what they have been looking for is not there. So after a day, after a week or a year, or even more, they give up, they walk away, and they never find gold." This confused the young man, and he asked, "What has this got to do with finding my purpose?" "Aha, the age-old question." The old man smiled and he looked at his companion and he said to him, "You know, there are those in life who look for their purpose and seem to find it almost immediately. From a young age, they have a clear sense of purpose and they pursue their dreams with energy and enthusiasm. Some others have to look a little harder, perhaps for many years, but if they persist and keep on looking, they will find something to live for. But unfortunately, finally, there are those who want to know their purpose, but they become frustrated with the search and they give up too soon, returning to a life of meaningless wandering." So the interesting point here is, if you think for yourself, in those groups, where do you fit in? What is it that makes sense for you? Are you the one that has found the purpose and are pursuing it? Or are you one that is still looking, hoping to find it? Or are you one of the unfortunate ones that's given up already? So, what is your life's purpose? When you think about uncovering life's purpose, we are tempted to try and find this one huge thing that will draw us towards it. Now, while the sentiment of this cannot be faulted, it's not as simple as this. Purpose doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be complicated. Developing purpose is something that is undertaken all through your life. It is something that you uncover piece by little piece until the pieces start fitting together into something that resembles a coherent vision of purpose. It's very much like the metaphor of the onion. The writer Günter Grass said, "The onion has many skins, a multitude of skins. Peeled, it renews itself. Chopped, it brings tears. Only during peeling does it speak the truth. When pestered with questions, life is like an onion that wishes to be peeled so we can read what is laid bare letter by letter. It is seldom unambiguous and often in mirror writing or otherwise disguised. Beneath its dry and crackly outer skin, we find another, more moist layer that once detached reveals a third beneath which a fourth and a fifth wait, whispering." That was Günter Grass, and the conclusion that we can draw from that metaphor is that only by beating away all the layers, you will eventually arrive at the heart of what is most clearly held and shows the true purpose. Now, a popular illustration of the journey to purpose is this one that's been floating around, and it's a representation of the Japanese concept of ikigai. Now, although on the surface this diagram looks very simple and easy to understand, it is actually a gross oversimplification of what the true experience is about. Unfortunately, from time to time, we take concepts like these and we try and simplify it to the level where it almost becomes a quick fix recipe. And ikigai is not a quick fix recipe. The origin of the word ikigai is thought to combine the Japanese words ikiuru, meaning to live, and kai, meaning the realization of what one hopes for. So loosely translated, it is a reason for being. Now, from there's a short jump to the concept of ikigai being a reason to live, or the idea of simply having a purpose in life. Now, ikigai aims to describe both the pleasures and the meanings of life. It is something that is possible without you necessarily being successful in your professional life. It may also apply to small everyday things, as well as the big goals and the big achievements. Ikigai may result in success, but success is not the prerequisite condition for having it. Having a sense of ikigai points to a frame of mind where people feel that they can build a happy and an active life. So it's a barometer which reflects the person's outlook on life in an integrated and representative way. Ikigai gives your life purpose, while it also gives you the grit and the resilience to carry on. It is about discovering, defining, and appreciating those of life's pleasures that have meaning for you. Now, if we look at this diagram, you can see there's 4 major components that are considered. It's built around 4 core questions. The first question, what is it that the world needs? The second question, what is it that you love to do? Then, what is it that you are good at? And, of course, what can you be paid for? If you look at this diagram, which is drawn as a Venn diagram, you can see the overlaps between these questions show us more information. For example, the overlap between what the world needs and what you love to do shows what your mission is. Your mission typically shows you what is that unique thing that you love to do and which offers something unique to the world. If we look at the overlap between what you love to do and what you are good at, that shows us where your passion lies. Now, passion is what brings you energy and joy. And passion is what keeps you going when the obstacles of life starts slowing you down. Passion is core to the resilience that you show when times get tough. If you look at the intersection of what you are good at and what you can be paid for, this is typically where we find ourselves when we settle in a profession or a career. Now, we all aim for a profession where we do what we enjoy and get paid for it. The overlap between what you can get paid for and what the world needs is where vocation lies. This is typically where we experience the strong feeling of suitability for the work that we do, a calling, if you may call it that. This is also often what we dedicate ourselves to in building a career. Now, it's easy to get caught up in any of these overlaps. It's wonderful following your mission or your passion or your profession or your vocation, or existing in any of the other partial overlays that you can see on that diagram. But it can still leave us with feeling that something is missing if we focus on one or some of these while excluding others. Now, if you look right at the center of this diagram, there's an overlap between what the world needs, what you love to do, what you're good at, and what you can get paid for. Now, this is the sweet spot where purpose or reason for being exists. So what we're going to do next is we're going to explore a little how to approach these questions in a way that makes sense and that over time can lead you, just like the onion, to the heart of your purpose. Okay, so here we've got our 4 questions. Now, it's very tempting if you look at these questions to jump in and answer the question that you already know the answer to. Okay, and often for most of us, that easy question is the one that says what you can get paid for. Okay, or what can you get paid for? Now, unfortunately, although that's the easiest question, it's also the most limiting question. Because if you go to that question first, what you are doing is you are limiting the possibility for all of the other questions. Because once you answer the question, what you can get paid for, you're going to start thinking in terms of what does the world need, just in terms of what it is that you can get paid for. And you're going to start thinking about what it is that you love to do, just in terms of what you can get paid for, and so forth. Okay. So, where do we start? Okay. The most important question there that creates most possibility is the first question there. What is it that the world needs? And we try and answer that question from everything that is in our conscious awareness of what the world as we know it needs. The bigger we make the system that we start from, the more possibility exists for us. For example, Elon Musk, very famous tech entrepreneur, he says, really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. It is really kind of like a relevance optimization. What do I think is going to make the biggest difference to the future of humanity? And then I try to see if I can have the value of the output be greater than the cost of the input, which is necessary for any ongoing enterprise. And he continues, and he says, so it's just from the standpoint of, am I working on things that I think will have the biggest impact on the future? And then making the economics work is necessary, just because if you don't make the economics work, then you're not going to have any effect on the future. So when we start, you always start with that question, and you start with your list about your world and write down your answers to the question. What does the world need? Draw that scope as big as you can. Even if you think it's ridiculous, because the bigger the scope of that first question, the more innovative and the more far-reaching the answers that you're going to offer to that question. Then the next question, also a question that expands possibility. What do you love to do? Now, considering the things you love to do, those are the things that bring you energy, joy, and pleasure. It's those things that lift your mood. It's those things that sustain you in a field of positivity. It's those things that make you resilient to setbacks and unexpected obstacles. If you know what you love to do, and doing it allows you to connect with the state of flow where time disappears and you become an expression of your best self, it becomes a joy to move forward towards a larger purpose. If you make that list and you connect to the positive emotions and feelings of knowing what you love to do, you can move on to the next question. What are you very good at? Most of us develop skills over time that serve us well. And some of those skills and abilities develop to the level where we get really good at it. These might not necessarily be skills that we use in our career. It might be hobbies. It might be fun things that we love to do. But it's important to understand what is that, or what is your comprehensive list of things that you do well. And then finally, the very last question. What can you get paid for? What are the skills and the abilities that you have that people would pay for? Often we immediately think of the current career we are practicing or a career that we are considering, and that's a very valid starting point. But also invest time in determining the other skills you have that people would pay you for doing. Once you've made all of these lists, see what themes emerge. See if there's a common theme that emerges that answers the question, what is it that the world needs? What is it that you love to do? What is it that you're very good at? And what is it that you can get paid for? And even if no clear theme emerges, do not lose hope. Give yourself a breather, take a break, and then answer these questions again. Elaborate on it, expand on it. Draw your world a little bit bigger. Really invest in those things that are precious to you, that you love to do. Really, really think of the things that you are good at and ultimately what you get paid for. Because cycling through these questions in this order is part of a continuous exploration, very much like peeling the onion that will eventually take you to the heart of your purpose. It's a journey. And sometimes it's a journey that will last for a very long time, if not for the rest of your life. Along the journey to your purpose, there are also supporting actions that you should pay attention to. And we call it the pillars of purpose. And these pillars are starting small, releasing yourself, harmony and sustainability, the joy of little things, and being in the here and now. In staying with our Japanese theme, one of the sorry about that. I'm trying to kill all the noises in the background. Okay. Staying with the Japanese theme, one of the most prized rituals of the Japanese cultural immersion is the tea ceremony. The Japanese concept Ichigo Ichi, literally meaning one time, one encounter, originally comes from the tea ceremony tradition. It is the appreciation of the ephemeral character of encounters with people, things, or events in life. Now, precisely because an encounter is ephemeral, it must be taken seriously. Because life, after all, is filled with things that happen once and only once. Now, the realization of the onceness of life's encounters and the pleasures provides the foundations for a life of purpose. When you start taking notice of the tiniest details of life, nothing is repeated, and each event has its own meaning, has its own form, has its own little things that are unique and is never repeated again. Now, the tea ceremony is interesting in that all 5 of these pillars of purpose seem to be embodied within it. In the tea ceremony, the master would carefully prepare the ornaments in the room, carefully arrange the furniture, paying the utmost attention to details such as the kind of flowers to be decorated on the wall. So in other words, the master starts with the smallest of details. There is nothing too small that is deemed unimportant. Then the spirit of humility is also the hallmark of the tea master and the guests, even if they've had many years of experience in the ceremony. They release themselves, they give themselves permission to experience this ceremony as if for the first time. And in a way, it is the first time, because there will never ever be another ceremony exactly like the one that they're experiencing. And they give themselves the permission to enjoy that. Now, also, many of the wares using in the tea ceremony are decades and sometimes even centuries old, and are handpicked so that they resonate with each other in order to leave an unforgettable impression. And there's a real focus on harmony and sustainability, a real respect for things that last over many years, many decades, many centuries. And of course, chosen in such a way that they fit in with the theme and the specific ceremony, the harmony. Now, despite the meticulous preparations, the utmost goal of the tea ceremony is to relax, to take pleasure in all of the sensory details within the tea room, and to be in a state of mindfulness in which one takes the inner cosmos of the tea room into one's mind. So there's this focus that if you see all these little sensory details, the smells, the beautiful flowers, the joy of little things, experiencing each of those little things on its own and for its own, and seeing how all of this fits together in that moment, that real focus of being in the here and now. Now, living in harmony with other people and the environment is an essential element of purpose. Each person's purpose, when implemented in harmony with other people's purposes, promotes creativity and a free exchange of ideas. If you appreciate and respect the individual characteristics of people around you, you can realize purpose, creativity, and flow. Now, my question for you is, what is something small that you can pay attention to, that you can allow yourself to do freely without the burden of your own and, of course, others' expectations of performance? What is it that you can do to create harmony and sustainability while simply relaxing into it and enjoying it and paying attention without distraction? The secret of purpose is a relentless pursuit of quality, of commitment, of focus on the small things without thinking about recognition. You know, too often we do something just for the sake of rewards. Now, if the rewards are not forthcoming, we are disappointed and we lose interest and we lose energy. Now, if you can make the process of making the effort your primary source of happiness, then you've succeeded in the most important challenge of your life. In life, you need to accept what you're given and then rise to the situation. By finding purpose in a specific environment, you could almost regard it as a form of adaptation, especially in the context of mental fitness. In any given environment, it's possible to have purpose. It's possible to have a reason for being. no matter what the circumstances might be. Purpose is all about the personal context and experience. Now, you can find purpose independently of the environment. Humans have this unique resourcefulness to find purpose in any circumstances. A tragic example is the one of Viktor Frankl. In the despair of the concentration camps of the Second World War, he understood this and he embraced this. And he said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And then he continued, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Now, this is incredible. This is a man that was dehumanized and was caught up in probably the worst situation that a human being while still alive can be in. And yet he found purpose. He found his purpose. But you have to start small. You need to be here now. Most crucially, you cannot and you should not blame the environment for your lack of purpose. It's up to you to find your own purpose in your own way. And that way is to be curious. Albert Einstein said, don't think about why you question. Simply don't stop questioning. Don't worry about what you can't answer, and don't try to explain what you can't know. Curiosity is its own reason. Aren't you in awe when you contemplate the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure behind reality? And this is the miracle of the human mind, to use its constructions, concepts, and formulas as tools to explain what man sees, feels, and touches. Try to comprehend a little bit more each day. Have holy curiosity. Thank you, Albert. That's just one of my favorite quotes. Going on to another story, the filmmaker Miyazaki, a Japanese filmmaker, very famous Japanese filmmaker. He told a story about being present in the moment that left a really strong and lasting impression on me. Once, he said, a 5-year-old child came to visit him at his studio. After the child played for some time, Miyazaki took the child and his parent to the nearest train station. Now, at that time, he owned a car with a convertible roof, and he thought this child would really love a ride with the roof down. Now, unfortunately, just as he was trying to lower the roof, a light rain began to fall. Maybe next time, he thought. And then he drove to the station with the roof remaining shut, and he dropped off the parents and their child. Now, sometime later, he said, he began to have a sense of remorse. He realized that for a child, a day is a day, and that day never returns. And the child grows out of himself so rapidly that even if he returns 1 year later and is taken on a ride with the roof open, it's not the same thing anymore. So in other words, that precious moment had been lost forever just because of his oversight. And he came to the conclusion that the most characteristic of a child's existence is to live in the present, in the here and now. And that same attitude is vital for the purposeful life. Okay, sorry, let me just get my slides on track again. Okay. Now, in moving towards purpose, probably the most powerful tool is the practice of reflection. And reflection is about creating for yourself a moment in the day, typically when the day is done, to reflect on what happened in that day. A reflection is best done on your own, away from others, in a state of quiet contemplation. You might even find it helpful to enter into a state similar to the coach state we started the session with. It is best done as a daily practice, but you can decide how often you would like to do this. And it starts just with considering a number of very simple questions. And you start and you think, in terms of my purpose, did I do my best today? In terms of my purpose, did I use my time wisely today? In terms of my purpose, did I treat people well today? In terms of my purpose, was I the role model for others that I wanted to be? And then ask yourself the very honest question, did what I accomplished today serve my purpose? And then that brings us to the last question, which is on the one hand reflection, but on the other hand, it's also something that points you towards tomorrow. And that question is, if I could have today over again, what 3 things could I do to make it even better? Now, this practice is very useful if you use it in conjunction with a technique like journaling. It's good to commit your thoughts, your questions, and your learnings to paper for later reference and later thought. Now, a very good mentor and teacher of mine, which some of you know, Win Wenger, he recommended that you carry a small notebook with you at all times. And in moments of inspiration, just record ideas, record observations, record thoughts as they arise. Now, the discovery of your purpose doesn't limit itself to specific moments in the day. So recording moments of insight at the time it occurs stops you from losing out on those learnings by trying to recall it later. Which brings us back to the young man, the wise man, and the story about panning for gold. Now, the young man asked, can everyone find their purpose? And the wise man responded, is there gold in the river? And the young man said, so how do I find my own purpose? And the old man said to him, you keep looking. And the young man said, but what if I want to find it quicker? And the old wise man said, son, there are no guarantees that you will be able to find it quickly. The only guarantee is that if you give up and stop looking for it, you will never find it. The young man then looked despondent, feeling that he had wasted his time with the old man. But then he felt a reassuring hand on his shoulder. And the old man said, I can sense your frustration, but let me assure you, if you can find your true calling in life, you will live with passion, make the world a better place, be richer than you could imagine, and feel as though the very face of God himself is smiling upon you. That may happen next week, next year, or in the years ahead, but the search will be worth it, and your life will never be the same again. So for now, your purpose is to find your purpose. Thanks, the young man said. Oh, and there's one other thing that I forgot to mention, the old man said. What's that? The young man asked. Just as those men and women need to get down to the river with a pan to find their gold, so we need to remain active to find our purposes. We don't find it sitting around at home doing nothing. It was getting late, so the 2 men turned for home and began their long walk back to the village. As they walked, the young man was deep in thought about what he had just learned. And the wise man smiled to himself, knowing that conversations like this were an important part of living his own purpose. And what about the 2 monks? You might remember the one monk said, mending happens stitch by stitch. The second monk looked at him and he responded, he says, you know what? We've been traveling together for 20 years and you're still talking like that. How can you be so clueless? How do you mend then? Asked the first monk. With each stitch, the whole world is spewing flames, said the second monk, sorry. Now over to you. Do you know what your purpose is for your life? Are you still looking, or have you given up? Oh, thank you very much. Sjoerd, are you ready for some questions?
So yes, you asked if I was ready for some questions.
Yes.
I am.
Yes. Okay.
Everyone who wants to put in some additional questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you, Francois, for your talk. You were completely in the talk, even so that for quite some minutes we could not reach you to open up your presentation again. I'm still digesting everything you have shared with us, and I'm glad that I'm on the journey with you. And in the past few months that we have been working on this project, I've gained a lot of new wisdom by reading many books and listening to what you had to share. And it's also an absolute privilege for me to share it together with you. And yeah, let's see what was in the chat box. At a certain moment, there was the question on the Ikigai, and that was about what was the question again for the small things that you could get into. So what is something small that you can pay attention to, that you can allow yourself to do freely without the burden of your own and others' expectations of performance? So what small thing can you do? So I had something like reading, and from reading you can go to sharing, you get some more wisdom that you can share, and that is something that I like a lot, but that is for everyone different. I think the question came, let's have a look. Yes, that was from Emily who asked that. And does that answer your question, Emily?
Can I chip in on that one, Sjoerd?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember many years ago when I learned how to scuba dive off the east coast of South Africa. Often what would happen is the storm winds would blow in from the sea, and because we've got the continental shelf, the water was still fine. You could dive. The water wasn't too agitated, but it had the effect of just pushing up all the salt into the water, so your visibility was really poor. And one of the things that the dive master said to us, he said, you know, when you scuba dive, you are very excited to see the big things, and you're excited to see the sharks, you're excited to see the dolphins and the turtles. But when your visibility is gone, you have to focus on the small things. Focus on the beauty of the coral, focus on the beauty of the fish, the small fish that don't swim off. So that's just an example of how you can still make meaning and enjoy yourself by focusing on something small, even though the bigger picture might be cloudy and difficult to see through. So it's about, in that moment, just to focus on the small things and appreciating it for what it is.
Yes, that's a wonderful example. From Emily, there was also the question, could one of you paste the question in the chat box, which I just did. And from Brian, there was the question, can we get the slides?
Yes, I will share the slides. I'm not sure if I can, I'll see if I can figure out who everyone is that was on this call, and I will share the slides with them. What I will do is I will also, because we are recording this, so what I'll do is I'll share the recording with everyone that showed up today. And maybe there's something that you will find in a second or third listening to what we said. I am looking. Someone wants to see slide 6. Which slide was that? That was Bev. Bev, I'm going to unmute you for a moment. Hi, Bev.
No, it's fine. Yes, how's it, Francois? No, it's fine. You've actually, that was about when you were really in the throes of your wonderful story.
Oh, yeah.
But I see it.
My apologies. I wasn't focused on this chat box at all.
No, you didn't have to be. While I've got the floor, then I wasn't quite sure what you were saying about what it means to release yourself, because you didn't have the slide on the screen. It was a bit difficult to follow your wonderful story. And so could you maybe give an example again of what it means to release yourself? Thank you.
I'm going to put you back on mute. Oops. Okay. Very nice question, Bev. What do we mean with releasing ourselves? And very simply, it's just allowing yourself to submit to that moment. You know, let go of the preconceptions, let go of anything that sits up in your head that might interfere with the enjoyment of that moment. Anything that will keep you from completely experiencing that moment at that point in time. So yeah, really it's about allowing yourself to be fully in the moment and not being distracted by anything. You know, it's so easy, especially in our busy lives. You're always thinking about things that happened last week, things that we have to do next week. And by sort of engaging in your mind about things that are not there in the moment, you actually distract yourself from that moment. Okay. Short. Okay, I think I might have accidentally muted Short.
Yep. Yes.
My apologies. I see Ayesha has got a hand up, so I'm going to unmute her. Ayesha?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hi there. Sorry, no, I was just putting my hand up on the screen thing from before, so disregard. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this very much.
Okay, no questions there.
No, thanks. No.
Okay, Short, have you picked up anything else?
I think the questions that were put into the chat box are all answered. If anyone still has other questions, please raise a hand or write them in the chat box. I don't see any new ones coming up. So maybe it's a good thing to close it down. And 2 new messages. Wow. So yes, that's from Marlies, I know. For me, it's dancing, where I feel most free to just experience no judgment. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
With the world changing so quickly, what does the world need? How do we know? Well, there are many things, and that was also one of the questions. And you can also look at the world from many perspectives, from different heights. Is the world around you, the world, your community, the bigger picture? And that's why Francois started with what does the world need? You can think of many, many, many things, and you narrow it down to the path that you say, okay, this is what I love to do, this is where I'm good at, and this is where I can get something paid for. But you have to start with all those things that the world needs. So what can you think of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bev, that's a great question. You know, each of us, we live and we see the world from a different perspective. So the world that you see is totally unique to you, which is why you are really the only person that can answer that question for yourself. And it's about engaging fully with the biggest possible vision that you have of your world, and then working from there. None of us understand fully what your world is about. At best, our vision of what our worlds are like might overlap with yours. So you have a unique view of the world, and that ultimately will lead you to a unique purpose. I mean, I spoke about Elon Musk earlier. In a world where everyone said, you know what, we have to have cars that run on petrol and diesel, he decided, no, his world is a world where there's renewable energy. He went and he said, you know, in a world where people say space travel is something that's done by governments, he said, no, this is a world that I want to change so that private citizens could develop companies that send rockets into space. So you definitely have your own world that you can bring your unique vision to. And from that, find a purpose that none of us might even be aware of. Okay. Oh, Bridget, I overthink things in general. Don't we all? Yeah, sorry, Sjoerd, I'm jumping in on that one. It's just one that sort of jumped out at me. I think if I could give advice, and I'm not the best person to give advice because I tend to be an overthinker as well, but it's about giving yourself the space to slow down. And what I often do is, I'm not as disciplined about it as I should be, but I have a meditation practice, and it is simply, without even considering the spiritual benefits of meditation practice, it's simply giving myself that 10 or 20 minutes in the morning just to come to a total standstill, and giving myself the space to relax in on myself. And then, of course, the other side of it is in the evening when you give yourself the space to just quietly reflect on the day. And for me, that is actually where most lessons are learned, because it's in the reflections that you learn a lot. It's not in the doing and the rushing around during the day, because we get so busy with doing things, and then we get home and we forget to give ourselves that little space where we can slow down the thinking and just give ourselves the time to reflect. Sjoerd, I don't know, have you got anything else that you want to add to that?
No, well, I see from Ayesha, intellect is meant to be the servant, not the master, according to Einstein. I love that. Meditation is so helpful for me to tone down compulsive overthinking. So yeah, I think that wraps it up as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Sure. Where are we? Do you think we are about ready to?
I think we're about ready to wrap it up. And one new message is coming in. And that's also, we are human beings, not human doings. Challenging to remember. That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute all, and you are very welcome to let your voice be heard.
Let the noise begin.
Well, thank you so much, Francois and Sjoerd. It's been valuable for me. I think it's a case of taking the time to work through the process as well, and obviously repeating it more than once. But I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This is Brian in Belfast. Very enjoyable, but I will need to listen to that at least twice. Well, probably 3 times. All great stuff in there.
Sorry, Brian. It's my South African accent.
No, it's constant.
I understand that completely, Brian. I'm working with with Francois for a few months now, and I know him a bit longer than that. And it's like a roller coaster, and this is just a summary of all those things that I've learned in the meantime. So it's I can understand that you do need some more rewinding of it again.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and nice to meet you, Stuart.
Thank you, Brian.
So,
Thank you, Francois. This came at such a good time for me, the purpose. And I look forward to the next session.
oh yes, it'll be exactly 2 weeks from now. Feel free to go onto our website. Under the calendar, you will see all the upcoming sessions. And if you join our newsletter, we'll also send out notifications via the newsletter. And I promise you, we won't spam you.
Excellent. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Francois. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think let's close the session here, and I look forward and hope to see you in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks, yes, 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.